What's good, everybody? Welcome into Betting the PFL, presented as always by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm your boy, the coach. He is my partner, as always, Ian Parker, the best in the game. And Ian, I got to tell you, Friday night, Chicago, Illinois, the third straight week in a row. This week, let me check my notes. Welterweights, featherweights, I'm here for it. Hello, sir.
Hello back to you, Coach. Look, last week, both weight classes understood the assignment. We had knockouts and finishes galore. This week, let's see if both weight classes can do it. The points matter more than ever. These Bellator guys, a lot of them have been getting the message. The PFL guys have been leading the way. I'm excited for this week.
16 of 20 fights so far have had finishes. 16 of 20. It's all about bonus points here in the PFL. Quickly, let's take a look at the early card on ESPN Plus. The pre-fight show will come on at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The early card, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and that's what we're showing right now. What jumps off the page to you?
Coach, fight that's flying under the radar. Krazev versus Brett Johns, two former Bellator fighters. Brett Johns has fought everywhere. Unbelievable, well-rounded cardio, jiu-jitsu, you name it. Keep an eye on that fight. It's going to be a banger.
And what about the main card? 6 big fights coming on. The mothership, as I used to call it all the time, ESPN after the NBA. We'll be live and front and center. What do you see here, Ian?
Coach, the big thing for me is Brendan Loughnane. You know, he wanted to come back last season. He wanted to do 2 in a row, and he fell short, falling to knockout by Pineda, who ultimately won. We've asked him, what is the motivation? He says that $1 million to do it again. That's enough for me to come back. I think he can. He's got a tough test at Carvalho to start. Let's see if he can do it.
Now, we're not doing a bet right here, but I want to educate the people at home on our main event. Maybe the next big guy, Andrei Koreshkov, taking on Magomed Umalatov. And Umalatov is one of those guys that just seems to get better and better. This is an incredible matchup. What do you see when you watch Umalatov fight?
I see power. I see a guy that is known for his wrestling, but he's been knocking everybody out, minus his last fight that went to a decision. You know, if his cardio can hold up, he is a scary guy for anyone, because if you can't take him down, you're forced to stand. He's got one-punch power. We've seen it time and time again. He's fighting someone in Korshev, 12-year vet. I'm sorry, back to 2012 when he started with Bellator. This guy has fought everybody and anyone in the division. However, does not have the wrestling if Umalatov wanted to go there. Also has been finished on the feet. This is going to be a fun one. Both guys, excellent strikers.
Yeah, both guys going to be tested. That's the main event. We'll have a pick for that coming up later right here on Betting the PFL, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's shift back now, Ian, to the early card. 6:30 p.m. is a pre-fight show Eastern, and then we have the early card at 7 p.m. Eastern time. The first one for points, Don Madge, Brennan Ward. When you see this matchup, what's your take?
Look, Don Madge has been out for a while, and not even just been out with an injury. The fact that his last fight, he was beating Haush Manfio decisively, gets knocked out in the 3rd round, and then is done. He's been gone for 2 years. He's fighting someone in Brennan Ward. And, Coach, if you've not seen a Brennan Ward fight in Bellator, there is either a finish or a lot of blood and then a finish. This fight is not going to go the distance. I see value in the underdog. Let's go.
Wow, maybe 2 picks in one, not going the distance. You got to listen. And maybe the underdog is live. Now, another fight on the early card. Adam Borch and Enrique Barzola. They're going to have to sit around. They're going to be right in the middle of the night. What do you like here?
2 Bellator guys. Barzola's also competed in the UFC. Very good wrestler, good cardio. He gets hit a lot. Borch, great takedown defense, better striker. I'm going Borch here. This is someone who knocked out Aaron Pico a few years ago. He's got a very high ceiling. People have been talking about him for years. I think this season could be his breakthrough moment.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of times when PFL bought Bellator, there was always this narrative, Ian, that we'd have a lot more fighters to pick from when it comes to who wants to do the regular season and participate for the $1 million. We're already showing exactly what that purchase has done for the PFL. A lot of the Bellator guys coming in. But let's now switch over to the main card. And when I look at the main card after the NBA game is over on ESPN, and Ian, the first fight, and you got to come out with an absolute banger. Bubba Jenkins is a PFL legend. Kai Kamaka is the cousin of Ray Cooper, also a PFL legend. If you don't know these 2 dudes, these 2 cats, let us help you out.
Bubba Batman Jenkins!
Kai
Kai Kamaka.
There's a nice inside trip. Oh, beautiful left hook to the liver again by Kamaka.
Jenkins with a suplex.
He's got him tight.
This game, he's got it. He's out.
Big overhand right.
Kai Kamaka looks so good.
Good right hand from Bubba.
My goodness, what a finish.
Ian Parker, I cannot wait for this fight to start the main card on Friday night. Also, there's odds that we can play here, which I like as well. Where are you going?
Coach, this card actually, there's a lot of odds we could play. There's only 3 or 4 fights that are a little out there in Parlayville. But for this fight, Bubba Jenkins, Kai Kamaka, listen, Kai Kamaka is not just Ray Cooper's cousin. This is someone who fought in the UFC, successful in Bellator, really good camp out of Extreme Couture. He is very tough. He's very durable. But for Bubba Jenkins, he's got to go back to his roots here. If he stands and bangs with someone like Kai Kamaka, he makes the fight more evened out. But if he wrestles and goes to where he's at his best, that's where he should be a minus 200. He's only minus 155. We're going with the bad man, Bubba Jenkins here. The wrestling, it just has to happen.
And if you are new to me and Ian, and we are clearly the best in the game, that minus 200 number, that's kind of our benchmark because MMA is different than other sports. We'll give out a straight play, minus 200 or lower. Anything higher, we like to throw it into a Parker's parlay. That's still to come here on the show. Let's switch to the next fight, Yamuchi and Gracie. And these are two fighters that know each other because they have fought before. So when you handicap a fight and you have two fighters that know each other so well, does that change anything in what your play here?
Well, it would change if there was enough time for one of the fighters to truly improve and change on things that have happened. But, Coach, since that's happened, Neiman Gracie had 2 fights in a row that he lost when he was going to fight for the belt, but then he won his last fight against Dante Shiro. However, what Yamuchi has done was his last fight, he had his leg literally broken by a kick from Michael Venom Page. So on top of that, Neiman Gracie won that fight. But here's the mind-blowing thing. Right now, the odds, Gracie's plus 240. Unless that is a typo, that is wrong, which means let's be right. Go fire away on Gracie right now. This is where it really pays to watch.
Do not miss out. Hashtag it pays to watch as early as you can. We tell you all the time right here on Betting the PFL, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Now, we got to bring it down just for a second because when you're in the world of fighting, your life is not always going to go well. It's all about the storylines, and sometimes the storylines are not good. Gabriel Braga was scheduled to fight in February. His father was recently killed. Awful story. And he unfortunately had to back out of that fight in February, understandably so. He's back for the regular season. He's fighting on Friday night against Justin Gonzalez. But Ian Parker, when you go through something like this and you lose a family member, your father, in such a tragic way, what do you think his mentality will be? We're only a few months removed from this.
Look, losing your father at any point is terrible. It's going to be hard on anybody. I've experienced it. It's literally the worst. He lost his father by murder, unexpected. And on top of that, there's also his coach, his mentor, everything. So the fact that he even attempted to fight in February is, I'll call it honorable, but also a little unrealistic given all the circumstances. Now, if he's fighting and he's ready, I have to believe that Gabriel Braga has changed his mental stance on that. It's no longer, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to weep, I'm going to cry. This is now, I'm going to fight in honor. My father would want me to move forward, wants me to win this. This is what our goal was. Just because he's not here physically doesn't mean the goal has changed. I think Braga gets this done. His opponent, Justin Gonzalez, is a very good competitor, a very game competitor, but Braga has all the tools to be a champion. Let's see if the motivation is for his father, but he's got to do this for himself first. I think he gets it done.
And this is where his family, his team, perhaps a sports psychologist, I don't know, can really play a pivotal part. Sure. Because in fighting, you're out there by yourself. So you got to have your team around you. So we wish nothing of the best for Gabriel Braga. Can't wait to see him back in the Smart Cage on Friday night. Now, moving on. Logan Storley against Shamil Musayev. Pretty straightforward. A welterweight fight right in the middle of the main card. Your take?
Look, Logan Storley is one of the best wrestlers in MMA, period. We've seen him fall short a couple of times because sometimes he just wrestles. It doesn't cause a lot of damage. This fight has to be his win. This is where he's got to set the tone. If he takes someone down, he's got to do ground and pound. He can't just sit there and hold, because even if he gets the points everyone else is going to see around him that, hey, the way the scoring is now, it is damage first, not control. So the wrestling has to have something there. I think that the way the season is with the urgency is going to help someone like Logan Storley. He still has a very high ceiling. He's a former champ in Bellator, and he's still young in his MMA career. We're going to go with the Storm here. I think Storley can get it done. But, Coach, the way he wins this is going to really tell us how to bet him on the next fight.
I'm so glad you brought that up because the PFL is so different than any other organization. And when bonus points are so critical and the fighters, they're trained to say, well, if I get on top and I have control, I can win that round. It's not about winning the round anymore. It's about getting the fight finished as fast as possible. Yeah. Love your take on that. And we'll see, kind of have an assessment after Friday night, how we move forward with either one of these two guys. Now, Ian Parker, you and I have been around the PFL for a few years now. When people think PFL, they think Ian Parker and the coach. They also think Brendan Loughnane. And in 2022, this man got all the way to the top of the featherweight mountain. And if you didn't see it, if you weren't here, if you don't know what it was like, let us show you.
Bubba Badman Jenkins. Brendan
Jenkins doing great work with that right hand. Loughnane very quick with that jab.
A solid shot by Bubba Jenkins.
Wow. Great defense there by Brendan Loughnane.
Oh, big right hand. That hurt him.
Good right hand. Bubba stumbled. Loughnane jumps on for the kill and pounds away with the right hand. He lands a knee and that's it. Brendan Loughnane, 2022 PFL Featherweight Champion.
Now, this is going to be a fascinating one, Ian Parker, because at the end of 2022, Brendan Loughnane, he was on top of the world. But 2023, it all starts over again. He gets upset. So he comes into this season, chip on his shoulder. He's been in Chicago for a minute now. He's locked in, ready to go. Your take.
Coach, I agree with you. He very much has to be locked in here. He's got to set the tone for himself. Coming off a knockout loss when everyone was expecting him to run the table again, there's pressure there. I think he can handle it. He's fighting someone in Carvalho who's a seasoned Bellator vet, but he recently lost by knockout. Loughnane's got to chop out the legs. He's got to set the tone, get 6 points. Potentially, I think Loughnane gets this done inside the distance.
The bonus points are everything. We've seen as a reminder, 16 of the 20 fights have ended in finish in 2024. All right, let's shift our focus now, Ian Parker, to the main event of the evening. Greshkov, Umalatov. And it kind of feels like there could be a passing of the torch, perhaps symbolically, to Umalatov based off of other names that have dominated this division. Your take?
Well, look, for Umalatov, he's had issues in the past, once it got to the playoffs. And last year, unfortunately, he fell short to injury, but he would have had to fight a training partner in Magomed Karabov. Now, that obstacle doesn't exist. This is now possibly Umalatov's time to really shine, get from point A to point B, and prove to the world why his undefeated status is not just that. He could be a title contender, but he's got to get past Koreshov, who's a seasoned Bellator vet, great on the feet. This is someone who landed a spinning back kick, broke someone's rib cage, and punctured their lung. And if that wasn't enough, punched the guy in the face till he went unconscious. But Umalatov can match that power, has the wrestling. I think Umalatov gets this done. This line is not as high as I thought it was going to be. Minus 148 for Umalatov. We're going to go that way.
That is absolutely in our sweet spot. Now, I love doing betting the PFL. I love being with DraftKings Sportsbook. But there are a lot of bettors out there, Ian Parker, that like to get creative, so to speak. They like to bet props. Well, you're the guy to come to. I need 3 props so we can keep our eye on as we head into the pre-fight show at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Friday night. Talk to me.
Now, Coach, we talk about finishes. Points matter, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. As much as I want it to, I got to give you the props based on resume and what usually happens. Number 1, Adam Borge versus Enrique Barzola. I think Borge gets it done by decision. That's due to the durability of Barzola. He is very hard to put away, good gas tank. He's going to constantly pressure with the wrestling. This is going to be a 29-28 for Borge. Moving on to the bad man, Bubba Jenkins versus Kai Kamaka. I may sound like a broken record here, but the durability of someone in Kamaka is what's going to get this all the way to 3 rounds. We've seen Bubba be able to sub people, okay? So you have 2 options here. One, you could take him to the decision, which will probably get you plus odds, or you could pay a little bit more and go by submission and or decision in the double method of victory. Last but not least, Umulatov already minus 148. Love that number. You want plus odds, take him to get it done by TKO or KO.
Clearly, when I told you, Ian Parker, that 80%, I know you're not a numbers guy, 80% of the fights so far in the regular season have ended by a finish, but yet you give me 2 props by decision to keep our eye. That takes guts. That takes guts, or that could be perceived as bold, but that wouldn't be you, Ian Parker. No, we'll get to the bold prediction in a second after we get to the favorite bet on the night. It keeps everybody interested throughout the entire card. And, of course, I'm talking about Parker's Parlay. Give me 3 names I'm going to put together to get those numbers back to a point where I can feel good about it. You're up.
Well, I like the way you said good right there, too. We're 2-0 in our Parker's Parlay. Let's make it 3-0. I would love to do that. We're going to go with Ramazanov, Loughnane, and Logan Storley. They're not fighting that order, just the way that I said the name so I can memorize Ramazanov's name. All right? Those 3 legs should get you to plus odds. Let's hit another one. Let's go.
Now, I love it when there's a big old fat 0 in the loss column for any of the plays that we give out. But our bold prediction, which it is now time for, our bold prediction, we are 2-0 so far this season. I want to be 3-0. Where do we go?
I'm going to go Loughnane second round TKO. I think the leg kicks, as a lot of the commentary team likes to call deposits, where you could cash out later. It's one of those days. Carvalho is a little susceptible to that, and I think Loughnane will chop that tree down and then eventually finish it at the end of the second. We're going to get some really strong odds on that, so that's going to be the bold prediction for the week.
It's going to be an incredibly busy night. It's the 3rd straight week of the PFL. We're going to be live from Chicago with the welterweights and the featherweights. Do not forget the pre-fight show, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, immediately following at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with the early card. Then after the NBA game is over, we will be live with the main card, and I cannot wait. If this week is anything like the last 2 weeks, you don't want to miss one single fight, one single bet. You'll be thanking us afterwards. That's going to do it for us. For my man, Ian Parker, I am the coach. This has been the latest episode of Betting the PFL, presented, as always, by DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll see you Friday night.